Hello, everyone, and welcome to Arts of the Self. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to delving into some rich material this summer semester. Philosophies of the self, media history, creative artworks, and critical discussions about contemporary media. Together, we're going to read and analyze texts by some of the most important media theorists from the past 100 years, and you will produce responses in writing, in images, in videos, and more. So let's begin with a number. Current estimates suggest that around 92 million selfies are taken every day. That's more than 1,000 per second. And it also means that the average person takes between 1 to 4 selfies per day. How many did you take already today? I think I took at least 2. The selfie has become the most voluminous image form in the history of representation. It's everywhere, it's on your phone, it's on your feed, it's on your mind, and it shapes how we see ourselves and how we see others. But what exactly is a selfie? What does it communicate? Who is it for when you upload it to, say, Instagram? And what kind of self does it create and put on view? Selfies are a relatively recent form of self-representation. They depend on the front-facing camera phone, which becomes a mass phenomenon with the 4th version of the iPhone in 2010. It's an important truism that before selfies, we represented ourselves in different ways: diaries, photographs, drawing. And each of these ways channels or even creates a different kind of self-relation, and thus a different kind of self. So the course starts from a few basic but powerful questions. What is a self? Most obviously, the self is a condition of experience, what phenomenologists call transcendent. It's always there. No matter what happens, you're always there. You can't perceive an object or move through the world without doing so from the perspective of a self. But usually we think the self is more than just that, more than just a subjective position. It has contents. So what are its contents? The sum total of its memories. But then what about the things that shape you that you don't remember? Certain kinds of trauma, for instance. Or is the self, as some contemporary neuroscientists believe, just equivalent to the brain and the brain processes? But then how much of the brain do we show when we post a selfie? What are we showing if it's not just a brain process? Is the self a story that begins in childhood? Or is it a certain kind of non-cognitive soul or essence that an image might capture, something that's undefinable, non-locatable, and specific to you? But in that case, how come so many selfies look generic, like all other selfies? So whatever we call the self, it can only be perceived in the ways in which it represents itself. So the central question for the course is, how do different media forms produce different kinds of selves? And these questions suggest that the self has a history. It's not always the same thing, and that history is bound up in the history of media. So that's our premise for the course. We will be constructing a kind of media history of the self. So each week we'll look at a different medium: diary writing, autobiography, photography, cinema, social media, and artificial intelligence. And we'll ask about its relation to selfhood. And along the way, you'll encounter major thinkers like Rousseau, Freud, Roland Barthes, Foucault, Byung-Chul Han, and Catherine Hales, and others who have all tried in different ways to theorize what the self is and how it emerges within social, technological, and economic systems. We'll also look at film clips, TikToks, and works of visual art that show how the self produces its representations in a shared world for the gaze of the other. So before we go further into specifics, I want you to take a moment to reflect. In what ways do you represent yourself each day? And for what purpose? And to whom? And in what form? It might be a photo that you send to a friend or a partner, a status update that you post publicly or privately, a diary entry, a text message. Or it might be ways that you track data about yourself that are empirical: sleep, heart rate, steps, etc. It might be tied to the idea of yourself as a brand, or it might be geared towards optimization. which is a different motive than unearthing a truth. So we're going to think more about all of those concepts and what kind of selves they create. Then please head over to the welcome survey and the introductory discussion posts on the orientation page. Spend an hour or so here. You'll answer a few prompts, and you'll also be asked to take and upload a selfie, as I just did. Don't worry, it's not about looking good. It's about opening up the central questions of the course together and getting to know each other in a fun way. So let me tell you a little bit about how the course works. Each week you'll complete 3 different types of assignments. First, you'll have a creative or an analytical project. This might be writing a diary, analyzing an artwork, making a TikTok video, or producing a video essay in a group. So look carefully at the module page, because sometimes there's both a creative assignment and a separate written assignment asking you to apply ideas from the readings to visual materials. Secondly, with each week, there's a quiz to help reinforce the week's ideas. And thirdly, you make a discussion post where you respond to the readings, and we ask you to comment briefly on at least 2 of your classmates' posts. Each module is self-contained, and you'll always know what's expected. And then if anything's unclear, reach out. Your GSI is your first point of contact for help with assignments, readings, or clarifications. And then I'll also be holding a live office hour on Zoom weekly at the beginning of each new module. So check bCourses for the link and the time. And there I'll go through the weekly assignments with some tips. I'll go over the readings and answer any questions. And these sessions are open and informal. They give me a chance to get to know you guys a chance to know each other a little bit. If you can't make it due to time zones or other obligations, don't worry. These sessions will be recorded and posted online shortly afterward. For each weekly assignment, you'll also be asked to complete 2 short peer reviews, reading or watching 2 other student submissions, and offering constructive feedback. This is not just a grading tool, it's a key part of how we learn in this course by seeing how others think, gaining insight into different creative and analytical approaches, and developing your own ability to give clear and thoughtful responses. Peer review is also a way to feel part of a community of learners, even in an online course. Feedback is anonymous by default, but if you'd like to keep the conversation going, you're welcome to identify yourself in your comments and continue the dialogue. Ultimately, this course invites you to think deeply about your own place in media culture, not just as a consumer or even as a producer of images and texts, but as a subject shaped by them. Who are you when you write, when you post, when you take a photo, when you filter it, when you confess? What do these representations reveal, and what kind of self do they produce? And ultimately, beyond the self, what kind of world do they address and bring into being? I'm excited to explore these questions with you together. Welcome again to Arts of the Self. Let's begin.